Pokemon have a wide variety of types that each can be, and Pikmin have a wide variety of species they can be as well. So what if we took Pikmin, assigned them Pokemon types, and then made more to fill the rest of the missing types? Hey everyone, Brandon here. Today we are trying something different yet familiar at the same time. I love the Pikmin franchise. The way I felt collecting these different little adorable sprouts in Pikmin 4 was very in line with the feeling I get from collecting new Pokemon, which is when the idea for a Pikmin of every type was born. So let's start with the existing Pikmin and what types they would be. First up, we have the first kind of Pikmin you encounter, the red Pikmin, who has been beautifully re-rendered by Foongoos, who did all the artwork for this video, so make sure to check out their link in the description. Anyway, obviously the red Pikmin's coloration and resistance to flames would make it the fire type. Then we have the blue Pikmin, which are amphibious with their mouth-like gills, so they would clearly get the water type. For the yellow Pikmin, it has that resistance to electricity, so the electric type feels fitting. The purple Pikmin is heavier and stronger than a normal Pikmin in both combat and lifting, so the fighting type works well for it, kind of giving the same vibe as Makuhita or Throw. For the white Pikmin, their main function is their resistance to poison and ability to produce it, so yeah, poison. Now for the winged Pikmin, we have an interesting case because its main feature is its ability to fly. But look at this thing and tell me it's not a fairy. The proportions and coloration are just so clearly a fairy type that I had to go with it. Plus, I have a fun idea for the flying type, so it just works out better. Rock Pikmin, rock type. Ice Pikmin, ice type. Finally, the newest addition to the roster, the Glow Pikmin. It has no legs, looks like it's made of green goo, and is nocturnal. Yeah, that's a ghost type. And for the record, all of them would be part grass type since they are plants. And the pure grass type Pikmin would just be Pikmin seeds. Is that a cop-out? Maybe. Do I care? No. Alright, with those out of the way, let's move on to the new Pikmin Foongoos and I crafted. So our journey begins with our Kopai character from Pikmin 4 returning to PNF 404. Why? Well, spoiler warning for those who haven't played Pikmin 4, but Olimar, before heading home to Hokotate, debriefed members at the Rescue Corps HQ of some fuzzy details he remembered from his time as a leafling. It seems as though there's actually a whole other side of PNF 404 yet to be explored, and he recalls Pikmin that were shapes and colors the Rescue Corps had yet to encounter. So HQ has sent you, alongside Chet and the Research Task Force, to investigate this new territory, hopefully finding these new Pikmin types, friendly or not so friendly creatures, and loads of treasure along the way. So after collecting the standard red, blue, and yellow Pikmin in the first and second stage of the game, the third stage would have you land in a scorchingly fierce desert. This place has buried treasure all over the gosh darn place. Man, it would sure be handy if we had some kind of Pikmin that could dig faster than a yellow Pikmin and was durable enough to resist the high temperatures, kinda like a red Pikmin. Oh? What is that? A mirage? No? It's an orange Pikmin?
Papaya. Four. Potpo.
Orange was the only remaining secondary color that had no Pikmin representation, so this little guy takes that spot. Orangey's body is obviously drill-shaped as I implied, but in combo with its orange coloration references a carrot. With carrots being a root vegetable plucked directly from the earth, I figured this would make a fantastic ground type and Pikmin. After learning that the orange Pikmin can also dig through solid rock, you could head to the first or second stage where you just so happen to spot some large rocks that block the paths to other areas. If you were to unblock the path in the second area, which would be more garden and floral themed, you would come upon what looks like a luminol. After seeing some eyes peering at you through the holes of the hive and hearing some movements inside, with a crash, out tumbles a new Pikmin to both its and your surprise. A few others would follow behind upon discovering you are with other Pikmin and aren't a threat. This one is such an odd shape.
The punta. Oh. Yuru. Papa song.
Obviously, this little cutie is the bug type. It is inspired by both bees and beehives. We made the body shape so it could look like a bee stinger and a beehive at the same time, which is reflected in its stinging and replicating capabilities. As we make more of these Pikmin, their roles are going to become a lot more gimmicky since we will most likely run out of practical purposes at some point. I liked the idea of a more combat-focused Pikmin whose abilities didn't just boil down to it's better at hitting. No tea, no shade to the purple Pikmin. Speaking of shade, in the first or second area, there are some boulders you could dig through to unlock access to the underground dungeon portion of the game. Launching ourselves into the inky black pit below, we would reach a deep, unfathomable darkness. Almost like something is purposely reducing the power of your flashlight so you can't see anything aside from your Pikmin and yourself. It's then that you notice a little glowing mushroom buried in the ground. It looks like you can pull it up. Doing so would reveal this eerie-looking Pikmin.
Potpo. おう。ワンベ。ゆる。
With a name like that, of course they are the Dark type. There can already be a case made for Pikmin being a horror game with its enemy jump scares, the horrifying designs of some enemies, and the idea of losing all these little cuties. So I thought for this design I would introduce a new mechanic that really leaned into that. The Pitch Black Underground, turning dungeons into a full horror experience, with your only salvation being these little creepy, lanky, not quite Pikmin. Obviously you already have the Glow Pikmin, which given its name could assist in these dungeons if you collect them, and vice versa with the Dark Pikmin being able to help during the nighttime portions. Some could say it's a bit redundant, but it kind of mirrors the relationship between Ghost and Dark type, or even Rock and Ground type, two types that are very similar conceptually but interact differently with other types. The Dark Pikmin would also be necessary to defeat the bosses of each Pitch Black Underground, as they are invisible, and so the spores of these Pikmin are the only way to actually see the enemy to fight them. Yet another new mechanic would be introduced in later dungeons of the game. At some point on one of the floors, your character would be separated from their Pikmin by the sudden raising of a wall behind you. As you explore further, you see an enormous Pikmin leaf sprouted out of the ground in the center of the room. With all your might, you pull on this leaf through a little A button mashing minigame, but what pops out to greet you is a massive and thorny Pikmin. It looks at you with its glowing red eyes and it is mad. Looks as though you disturbed it from its underground slumber.
ポテポ。ハッチ。
In this mini boss battle, the Pikmin would charge at you, and upon hitting the wall would become slightly stunned. At that point, you would whistle at it to help calm it down. After the classic 3 times of doing that, it would ease its anger and join your side.
パヨ。フォース。おう。
As you probably guessed, this mighty Pikmin is the Dragon type rep. You can't throw Beast Pikmin due to their sheer size, so you would just order it around to do certain tasks, like breaking down walls, pushing blocks, and fighting enemies, all with the charge of its mighty thorny body. I thought it would be a really fun inclusion to have you go through some kind of underground labyrinth, commanding this one incredibly tough ally through puzzles and enemies, eventually reconnecting with your previous Pikmin, and saying goodbye to your newly found friend. Trials and dragons are like peanut butter and jelly, so I felt this idea made a lot of sense. I did consider the Bulbman for this type, but that felt kind of boring given it is already an enemy type, so I went with this idea. Oh, and instead of your typical flower, if this Beast Pikmin eats honey, its flower would be a rose. Now we just need to find a beauty Pikmin and some enchanted objects so the Disney lawsuit can commence. From the deep underground, we make our way back up to the clear skies of the 4th level, which is littered with cliffs that have huge pits between them, a certain death for any that were to fall into them. When you approach your first cliff, it looks as though there's a way to build a bridge on the other side. If only there were a way to throw our Pikmin just a little bit farther to make it over there. It is then that gliding on the breeze you notice this twirly looking plant drifting by. Wait, that's no plant, that's a Pikmin!
メカバコ。
You follow it until you discover about 4 of these twirly leaves in the ground, with the one you chased almost beckoning you to pick them. After picking them and throwing one, it looks like it hangs out in the sky for just a bit before returning to you.
パヨ。ワンベ。
You do so, and the Sky Pikmin grabs the Pikmin's leaf and throws it even further like some kind of flying trapeze artist. Move over, Cirque du Soleil, we have Pic du Soleil. You try the same thing at the cliffside, and sure enough, your Pikmin build that bridge so now you can cross.
おう。
So this is the flying type Pikmin I referred to earlier. I felt this design and mechanic would make it feel different enough from the winged Pikmin to justify making it. The whirling leaf it has references Leonardo da Vinci's aerial screw, an early rendition of a possible flying machine which operates on the principle similar to tornadoes. Unfortunately, da Vinci didn't design a way for the passenger to not spin with it, so it was never meant to fly. Much like Sky Pikmin, they don't have true flight like the winged Pikmin. You could say they're falling with style. Yep, that Disney lawsuit is definitely on its way. Okay, but what if you wanted to have something float in the air, but not through flight, but with the power of the mind? Then you would head to the 5th stage, which is oddly themed, having an eerie, darker forest vibe with some abandoned structures scattered around. You could even wield Dark Pikmin here during the day. But in one of the structures, you would see the green silhouette of what could only be described as an alien life form, even for PNF 404. It turns around and creeps towards you. And it's then that you notice a little leaf on its head.
パヨ。
That it does! This Pikmin can use its mind to lift objects rather than its strength. They float in the air, but not quite as high as with the winged Pikmin.
ハッチ。
This Pikmin is naturally the Psychic type. Though it isn't a huge must, I thought the idea of having a Pikmin that used its mind to attack rather than its head like the others would be an interesting addition. Its green coloration references two things. When combined with its odd appearance, it refers to little green men, a very classic and stereotypical depiction of aliens. And the color combined with the head shape refers to yet another vegetable that comes from the ground, broccoli, which is actually good for your brain, helping lower stress and the risk of brain-related diseases. Continuing the strangeness, when digging up some treasure in the dark forest area, out would pop another weirdly shaped Pikmin.
Make up a call. The Bunta.
As Chet said, you could transform this goofy little guy into whatever Pikmin you need. Went into a dungeon with water and all your water Pikmin got squished? Turn this little guy into one. Want to freeze an enemy but you didn't bring any ice Pikmin with you? Turn this little guy into one. Feel like you're all alone in the endless void of space we're all careening through? Turn to therapy. Seriously, it sounds like you could use it. The only two kinds the clay Pikmin couldn't turn into are the beast Pikmin and the next one we would encounter for a very specific reason. So with that, in a secret optional dungeon within the dark forest area, you would encounter the strangest looking Pikmin yet. In the deepest part of this dungeon, using every type of Pikmin along the way, you would find a silvery little blob in the middle of a large room. First, it would form itself into a metallic version of Olimar, look at you for a brief second, and then it would begin to grow, transforming into a silvery plasm wraith, a weaker version of the one from Pikmin 3. After facing down this boss, it would melt into the ground, and in its place, a single red bulbous sprout would appear. Upon pulling it up, this thing would appear before you, investigating you before standing at your side, much like Louie did in Pikmin 2.
Make up a call. False.
Well, you would discover that shortly after when you decide to throw a Pikmin. This odd Pikmin would copy your movements, throwing a Pikmin at nearly the same time as you, effectively doubling your Pikmin throw speed. A worthwhile reward for fighting your way down here. With its metallic body, this is clearly our Steel-type rep. Story spoilers for Pikmin 3 and 4 here, but the idea behind this is some form of Plasm Wraith discovered Olimar while he was in his Leafling form, and it seems as though that Pikmin hybrid DNA was retained by this monster, resulting in this Pikmin Olimar Wraith hybrid that you now command. And that is a Pikmin of every Pokemon type. Thanks so much to our incredible members whose names you can see on screen for supporting this channel with their hard-earned money and allowing me to make cool videos like these, which you can also do by hitting that join button. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.